Good morning. It's good to see everyone here. It's wonderful to be back. For those who don't know me, my name is Greg Prince. I currently preach in Santee, California, back in my home state of California, and I'm out here for a short meeting. We men had a wonderful study yesterday. We'll review a little bit of what we talked about, but we'll be looking at the life of Moses this weekend. So we'll be in Exodus chapter 13 if you want to be turning there. We'll get there in just a moment. As we do, as I mentioned, I want to catch up those who may not have been here yesterday, because we looked at Moses' beginning when he went and was wandering through, or taking the sheep through the wilderness on behalf of his father-in-law Jethro, and he comes across a burning bush. And when Moses is called at the burning bush, we made a number of observations about his doubt. His fears about what God was calling him to, and how he feared and doubted his past, being a shepherd, being one who had killed an Egyptian soldier, and one who has a troubled past in Egypt, and he was doubting his speech. God, I'm not able to talk like you're asking me to, and actually things haven't changed since you started talking to me. So please send someone else. Moses asks this question, who am I? Now it's not working again. We can get... All right. Well, no PowerPoint then for a moment. Hopefully we'll get that fixed. So Moses asks in Exodus chapter 3 through 4, who am I? And ultimately God's response is, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be the one that carries you through this journey. I'm going to be the one that delivers you back to this mountain. And that will be the confidence that you need to move forward. As Moses then goes back into Egypt, finally stepping up to the task that God has called, we see Moses continue to develop in his understanding of who God is and gain his confidence in doing the work that God has called him to. And as we went through the parables, we noticed how Moses went from being silent during the first plague to being a confident leader who is calling out Pharaoh for his shortcomings and who is leading the people out of Egypt. And there's this transition through all 10 plagues where he starts to overcome his doubts and his fears. And he builds his confidence to speak against the world, to speak against Pharaoh, and to speak against all those who started opposing him. And so there's this build of confidence where he gains his strength in seeing God act and seeing Aaron act. And so his helper becomes helpful in a way that he wasn't expecting. As we left off, the people were preparing to leave Egypt. And that's where we're going to pick up. They're leaving Egypt. They're free. This is a great moment for the people. This is the moment that they've been crying out to God to deliver them. And he's heard their cries, and now he's sent them, Moses, to lead them out, and here they go. If we look at Exodus chapter 13 then, we'll pick a few excerpts from this story, this narrative, as we lead into the Red Sea. Notice in chapter 13, beginning in verse 17, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea, and the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt, equipped for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. And they moved on from Succoth and encamped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. As we are going towards the Red Sea, we know what ends up happening. They get pressed against the Red Sea. They're walking into an impossible situation. An impossible situation that many of us would look at and go, there's no way out of this. And in this section that we just read, consider what led them there. How did we get to this point where we get to the Red Sea? What did God decide? Why did he decide to lead them to the Red Sea? What did the text just say? That the people would know who he is? Why did he choose to go the route of the Red Sea instead of going the direct route to the Promised Land? They weren't ready for battle. They weren't ready to be attacked. They didn't have the understanding of who God was. They didn't have the faith in God to trust that he would give them the victory in the battle. And so he knew that would be their demise. So he led them to the Red Sea instead. So as we set the scene, we're seeing how God already was planning a way through. And he was doing it with a purpose. Now jump to chapter 14, verse 10 through 14. Of course, Pharaoh is chasing after them now, again, changing his mind for who knows how many times. When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." And Moses said to the people, "Fear not. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent." The people are free, and the moment they see any attack, what's their change of attitude? How do they respond in this moment? What do you notice? Fear. What else? Resignation. We're done for. There's no hope. Retreat. Run away. What else? Yeah, it would have been better for us to go for us to stay in Egypt. If he was going to kill us, he should have done it there. They have no faith. They don't understand who God is. They're happy to be free. They're happy to get this freedom from bondage and sin, but they do not understand what it means. How does Moses respond? What do you notice about his response?
Somebody that's learned a lot.
He's learned a lot over the last few weeks, and he gives us one of the most quoted verses of Moses' speeches. You have only to be silent. Just stand still and watch the salvation of the Lord. You have only to be silent. Comforting, isn't it? God's going to work on our behalf. We don't have to do anything. Is that sometimes the hope that we have is that God's just going to solve our impossible situation? That if I just lift up a prayer, give my Hail Mary, and offer that final punt of the prayer to God, that he's just going to swoop in, and all I have to do is be silent and wait for God to act. That's Moses' faith at this point, which is a profound change from the man who said, "Who am I? I have nothing. I don't trust God. I don't know you. I don't want to even go where you're asking me to go." Now he has the confidence when the people are complaining to go to them and say, "You need to trust the Lord. Just trust. He's going to take us through this. Just be silent. Listen. Stand still. Don't run away. Don't go back to Egypt. Trust him." Moses has something to learn, though, doesn't he? Moses has something to learn. That's not how faith in God works. And in fact, it's the next response from God that highlights in chapter 14, 15 through 31, what God really wants Moses to understand in this moment, and what he wants the people to understand. So let's read that section. The Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, and the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they shall go in after them. And I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, his chariots and his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten glory over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." Then the angel of the Lord, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them. The pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel. And there was a cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night without one coming near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all the Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And in the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire and of cloud looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels so that they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." The Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and upon their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course when the morning appeared. And as the Egyptians fled into it, the Lord threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that the Lord had used against the Egyptians. So the people feared the Lord, and they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses. What's God's instruction? What correction did he make to what Moses had told the people? Start moving. Don't stop. I've told you where we're going. Keep moving. Yes, I need to watch for the salvation of the Lord. Yes, I need to go and trust him, but I don't do it by standing still and remaining silent. God's given us a purpose. He's given us a plan. He's led us on a path, and he's telling these people, don't stop. You can't stop. So while Moses says, stand firm and you'll see the salvation of the Lord, God says, why do you cry to me? Tell them to keep moving. Don't stop. Waiting for the Lord is often equated with standing still and being silent, which is considered a faithful act. But even here, as Moses is encouraging them to wait for God to act, to do nothing, to stand firm, to remain silent, Moses assumes that God will act without needing any more from them. God tells them, move forward, because waiting for the Lord is not passive, it's not inactive. Faith doesn't freeze. It keeps moving. Isaiah 40, verse 28 through 31 shows that waiting for the Lord is gaining our strength in Him and not ourselves. And as a result, His unending power, strength, and stability will help us to be lifted like on eagle's wings. Flip over to Isaiah 40. Listen to the language that he uses there. Isaiah 40, verse 28 through 31. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. What does it mean to wait for the Lord? According to Isaiah, according to Moses, how would you say or explain to someone what it means to wait for the Lord? Anyone want to take a chance? Go ahead, Wayne.
Those that appear to be stable are not happy.
Okay, those who
They
appear.
get power, but they may not look like that.
Yeah, those who are appear still are not powerless. They're drawing strength and power from somewhere else. Okay? Any other ways you might say that? What does it mean to wait for the Lord? Belinda?
Personally, the way it affects me is don't fret. Don't
Okay.
fret. Waiting for the Lord doesn't mean being totally inactive.
Right.
But it does mean relying on Him and having a peace inside that says He's got it. He's going to handle it.
Right. Yeah, it's that peace to not fret because we're gaining the confidence from Him and we're trusting that He's going to lead us through, but it's not just waiting around silently and
It's not sitting and watching TV.
yeah, it's not sitting and watching TV hoping He's going to solve your job problem, right? I mean, there's action needed. Chip?
Scripture that you just read says that people who wait on the Lord are running and walking.
Yeah.
And I think of New Testament terminology, I would say we run the race. We continue to run the race. And Paul said he ran well, and we continue to walk a worthy walk.
Right.
He talks about that in Ephesians. That's what the people who are waiting on the Lord do. They're walking worthy.
Yeah.
And they're running a race.
Yeah. In fact, the idea there is if they weren't waiting on the Lord, what would happen to them? They would grow faint and weary and unable to sustain themselves. Go ahead, Michael.
I think Moses is a pretty good example of that. That like he's not waiting on the Lord at the beginning of all this when he tries his first little exodus, right?
Right.
He's the one trying to bring deliverance by killing the Egyptian. Well, this is really waiting on the Lord, just surrendering and putting your staff out there and watching Him work.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about yesterday how when Moses kills the Egyptian, we later learn that he was intending to deliver the people for God on his own, in his own way. And he fails, and that's part of his doubting when he says, "Who am I?" Well, I've tried once. Why do you think it's going to be successful this time? But he's learning. I'm going to wait for the Lord's timing, for the Lord's instruction, for the Lord's power to be enacted in this. But he realizes he has to take action. He has to be active in that. I like the way that one commentator summarized this. He said, "To wait is not to sit around hoping something will turn up, but rather to hold an attitude of confident expectation. It is to cease from frantic efforts at working out one's own salvation and instead to look in faith to the Lord." How many times are we frantic about finding our own solution to a problem? And we don't turn to the Lord, or we don't trust in His plan, and we get messed up. We get frustrated. Look at the Red Sea from two perspectives now. The way that we look at it as humans. As the people were coming against the Red Sea, what do they see? Egypt is behind us and an impassable water before us. There's no hope. There's nothing that we can do. It would have been better to serve in Egypt. It would have been better to be oppressed and be beaten and to be worked to the bone than to be in this situation. And panic and fear leads to a nostalgia of what was easier. But it's a fake nostalgia, isn't it? We talk about the grass was greener on the other side, but don't we sometimes wish we could just go back to when life was simpler and I didn't have so many obligations, there wasn't so many things pressing on me. I wish I could just go back where life was better. Say what? Every day. The body is failing. Why am I here? This is terrible. I wish I could go back. Moses, in this moment, is reminding us and reminding the people, there's nothing good back there. You need to see it from God's perspective. You need to hear what God is teaching you. You need to walk towards the impossible. Keep moving because God said that's the way forward. And in fact, God is so committed to it, He takes the cloud and separates the people from Egypt and the Egyptians. He makes it so the Egyptians can't see them. And then in the middle of the day brings a cloud of fire and sets it before them to guide them, to lead the way through the dark waters. He calls them to stay the course. Don't give up. Keep moving. And the test of our faith then is the judgment against sin. In this moment, the test of whether they're going to follow God and walk through the sea is a decision to say that sinful life and that oppression and that pain that we felt before is not good. I'm going to follow God instead. Or they have the decision to say, that way looks too hard, I'd rather go back there. So I'm either agreeing with my sinful past or I'm agreeing with God and the plan He has, even when I don't understand it, even when it looks hard. But the people do it. They follow. They take the way of escape. And that leads us to the first song recorded in Scripture. The Song of Moses. Let's read that. It's a beautiful retelling of what God has done for the people. Nope. Let's see. Skipped my own notes. Oh, just as a review, as Moses, before we get to that point, as Moses is coming out, we've seen that he's hesitant, excuse-filled, and passive at the beginning. Then he gets into Exodus chapter 5 through 12 with the plagues, and he's gaining confidence through action of his own and seeing God act. And then we get to Exodus 14, and now we have him urging the people to trust the Lord. He's now trying to get others to understand this God that he's serving. But he still had to learn something, that standing still in silence is not enough. God expects his people to wait in action, to gain their strength from him, to act with his strength and his urging. Sometimes we sound spiritual, but are really stalling. We're waiting on the Lord. Waiting on the Lord is not an excuse to stand still and do nothing. Think about your life for a moment. What are you standing still in the face of instead of moving forward right now? Wayne has a question. Yes.
What is our pillar of fire?
I'm sorry?
What is our pillar of fire? What is our cloud? What do we keep our eyes on as we try to gain this strength, gain these lessons?
Sure.
And it talks about keeping your eye on heaven, keeping your eye on Jesus.
Well, good question. That'll take us into the Song of Moses. Let's see what Moses reflects on. Let's see what he reminds the people and creates this song as a way to remember the very thing that helped them to endure. What is it that Moses is realizing as a result of seeing God create this deliverance for them? All right, so now the song. Exodus chapter 15, verse 1 through 21. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host he cast into the sea, and his chosen officers were sunk in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. They went down into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, glorious in power. Your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow your adversaries. You send out your fury. It consumes them like stubble. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. The floods stood up in a heap. The deeps congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall have its fill of them. I will draw my sword. My hand shall destroy them. You blew with your wind. The sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand. The earth swallowed them. You have led in your steadfast love the people whom you have redeemed. You have guided them by your strength to your holy abode. The peoples have heard, they tremble. Pangs have seized the inhabitants of Philistia. Now are the chiefs of Edom dismayed. Trembling seizes the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. Terror and dread fall upon them because of the greatness of your arm. They are still as a stone, till your people, O Lord, pass by. Till the people pass by whom you have purchased. You will bring them in and plant them on your own mountain, the place, O Lord, which you have made for your abode. The sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. The Lord will reign forever and ever. For when the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, the Lord brought back the waters of the sea upon them. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang to them, Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea. As Moses reflects on what has just taken place, what do you notice about the song that he pens for them to remember this moment? The Lord reigns. What else do you notice? Michael.
I love verse 12. Because like all of the plagues and the crossing of the Red Sea, it's Moses and Aaron are the ones that are stretching out their right hand.
Good.
he's really saying, you were the one that was stretching out your hand.
Yeah. As Moses has learned to wield the staff that God has been using and using his hand to stretch it out and to strike things so that God will be in action, he recognizes, according to verse 12, it was never my hand, it was yours, God. It was your right hand that was stretched out. It was you who swallowed them up in the earth. What else do you notice?
Verse 13, God's faithfulness, steadfast love.
Okay, even now at this moment, Moses is realizing God is faithful and has steadfast love for his people. You're not going to let us be consumed by the world. You're not going to let us fail. What else do you notice? Okay, so as we go through this song, there's an interesting structure to it. Verse 1 through 3, we see that the Lord's victory is in the battle. He makes the victory for the people. Verse 4 through 5, we have the drowning of Pharaoh's army. He's showing how God made all of that happen. He cast them into the sea. They were sunk in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. Maybe a reference back to the flood that Moses might have heard of from Noah. He's recognizing that God is again flooding, but doing it in a controlled way. Verse 6 through 8, God's mighty power is on display. At the blast of your nostrils, the water piled up. The floods stood still. Verse 9 through 10, it's the enemy's threat and God's response. Did you notice it? The enemy said, I'm going to do this. My power is going to do this. All this is going to happen. And they put all this effort into it. And what does God do? Breathe. As simple as a breath, and they're gone. Verse 11, who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you? Majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders. Verse 12, you see again God's response to the enemy, doing it through steadfast love and the strength that he has. God's power guiding his people in verses 13 through 16. And then in verse 17, God plants his holy people on holy ground. You'll plant them on the mountain, which you have made for your abode, which your hands have established. A callback to the promise that God made when Moses said, who am I? And God says, I will be with you, and I will give this to you as a sign, that when you have done all that I have commanded you and come back and worship on this mountain, then you will know that I am the Lord. Moses is recognizing God is taking them to the mountain. I see what you're doing, God. And then verse 18 through 21, we have the Lord reigning forever and ever, and Miriam echoes that victory call from verse 1. I said it's an interesting structure. Have you all talked about chiasms lately? Do you see it? Let me help you. What is the central focus of this song? What is Moses trying to get them to understand? Yeah, we've seen these amazing signs. Yes, we've seen all of this wonder. Yes, we've seen the victory. Yes, you've done this. What's his conclusion? Who is like you? I am who I am. I am unlike any other God. That was when Moses made his first excuse and says, well, who should I say sent me? And he says, I am who I am. And now Moses is recognizing in this song, at this moment, you are who you said you are. Unlike any other God, you have presented yourself to the people, and you are showing us that you care about us, that you have steadfast love and faithfulness for your promises, that you are going to do exactly what you said you would do. And he records it in this song so that when the people forget, they can come back and remember that at the heart of this song, there is no one like our God. So who do you focus on? What do you focus on when the pressure is coming in? What does Moses want you to remember? Say that. Who God is. What happens to fear when you reflect on how unique our God is? How powerful he is. How faithful he is, how loving he is. Fear begins to fail, and the confidence to move forward becomes stronger. What do you got, Wayne? You got something? I see it.
Where it says love drives away fear. What drives fear away?
Yes.
It's the love of
God. The love of God. Yep. Drives away fear. Where are you standing still right now? Where are you standing still? Maybe it's a relationship crisis. And you're just frozen, saying, well, I'll just wait it out and see. Maybe it'll get better. It's time to speak the truth in love to that person. It's time to put God before them. Remind them of who God is. Is there a career uncertainty? And you're saying, well, let's not rush into anything. I'm not going to make any quick decisions. That's wise. But are you walking through that by going to God in prayer daily? Asking for his wisdom and his strength as you make those decisions. Maybe you're addicted to something. A drug, food, a person, the comforts of this life. And you're telling yourself, I just need one more sign and then I'll quit. I need one more burning bush and then I'm all yours, God. Don't do it anymore. Seek help. Find accountability in going to God and seeking the help of one another. Maybe your fear in being evangelistic is that I don't want to push anyone away. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Start a conversation and trust God. That's all there is to it. Tell them what you know and what you love about God and his scriptures. Let God do the rest. It's not his mouth. It's not your mouth talking, it's his. It's not your hand turning the pages, it's his. He is doing the work. He has provided you everything you need. You are needing to be the vessel by which it's done. That's it. Get to work. But I get it. Standing still feels safer. Feels a lot safer to say, at least I didn't do anything wrong. But walking in faith is where God shows his most powerful works. Walking in faith, taking those steps, trusting that he will guide you and protect you and lead you to the end and see you to the end goal. When you're walking, when you're taking action, that is when God can be on display at the greatest level. Where in your life is God urging you to go forward, but you've dug your feet in? What Red Sea stands between you and obedience to God? How would your worship look if you trusted God to to be the center of it. Instead of taking confidence in my own ability and seeing the world as it is around us. Changing your perspective and seeing how God wants you to see things. Faith isn't waiting for God to defeat the enemy. Let me say that again. Faith is not waiting for God to defeat the enemy. Faith is watching for God to part the waters and having courage to walk through them. We have to act. And Moses is learning that when we face impossible situations, we can no longer stand still, because standing still is not an option. I want to thank you for your kind attention. We're a couple minutes early, but I want you to think on that. We're going to be going into Exodus chapter 19 and following. We have, Exodus 16 and following, as we look at them wandering through the wilderness in our lesson this morning, and seeing how God is continuing to show Moses and the people the importance of trusting him and seeing him as a unique God. They're free, but will they trust him? We're free. Will you trust him? Walk by faith, not by sight. Appreciate your kind attention. Thank you.